Okay, everyone. So today, my name is Rémi Durafor. I'm a Lava Tech lead. I will speak about hacking and contributing to Lava. So the goal is just to give you a brief understanding of the architecture and try to understand how Lava is working. So if you have any issues or if you want to contribute to Lava, you have some ideas to where to look at things. It's not a full course because it will take hours, but some ideas. So we will start by the Lava architecture itself. So just to frighten everyone a bit, this is the full Lava architecture that we draw at Last Connect. We draw it and Ryan did a nice graph out of it. I just put it in the slides, so if you want to go back at it after the talk, you will be able to understand most of it. Maybe not all of it, but most of it. We'll start by a simple architecture. Just almost the same. I just removed some stuff. So Lava is made of mainly two parts. So the server and the dispatchers. The server is mainly responsible for interacting with the user. That's the part that the Lava sees, that the user sees. And the dispatchers, they are responsible for talking with the DUTs. DUTs is device under test. So only the dispatcher is actually doing anything with the DUTs. The server is never touching anything. It is never touching to the DUTs directly. So regarding the roles, as I said, the server is responsible for all the user interactions, so web UI, submitting jobs, looking at the results, looking at the logs, doing the user and group authentication. Is also responsible for scheduling the jobs. So it will look at the available devices, the list of jobs that you have to submit, apply all the scheduling rules that does exist. It will actually store the job logs. So if you are looking for the job logs on the file system, they will be on the server, never on the dispatcher itself. And it's the one sending notification directly. And the second part of Lava is the dispatcher, as I said before. And this one is responsible for talking with the DUTs. So it will deploy resources, it will power on and off the DUTs, it will check the board health, it will parse the logs for kernel errors, for warnings and things like that. And it will send back all the logs to the server. And it will also try to classify errors. Is it a boot error, a test job error, or a bug maybe? It happens also. So this is more for admins, but also useful for developers. On the server, you will find a lot of services. This is the systemd services names. So if you want to inspect your own system after you install Lava, you will do service, something, status, or restart, or whatever. This is the actual systemd names that you will use. So the first one, on the server, as I said, it's interacting with the user over HTTP. So obviously you need first a reverse proxy, that will be Apache in our case. And Apache will forward most of the requests directly to Lava server Gunicorn. Gunicorn is a web server that will serve a Django application. It will execute a Django application for service or request. And in this case, the base module is Lava server's WSGI that will execute the Django application behind. We use Postgres for the database, and then we have 4 different Lava services. So Lava Master, Lava Logs, Lava Publisher, and Lava Coordinator. I will explain a bit later on what they are doing each. If you go on to the dispatcher then, so the one responsible for the duties, there is only one service. It's called Lava Slave. One service that we provide, it's called Lava Slave. And then depending on your use cases, you will have an NFS server, you will have a TFTP server, Certunet, LXC, Docker, UDEV maybe. It will depend on what kind of board you use and what kind of device of use case you have. So going down a bit more on each services so you understand what they do. As I said, on the server, you have a service called Lava Master, and on the dispatcher, you have a service called Lava Slave. So it's a classical master and slave architecture. So there is one master that is controlling the remote slaves that are on the dispatchers. So the master will check the slave identities. We have the MQ certificate to encrypt the connection and to certify that a slave is authorized to connect. So we don't accept any remote slaves. We have to have their public key. It will also check the connectivity, check that the dispatcher is actually still online and that was not a network connection error or thing like that. And if it's the case, the master will mark the dispatcher as offline, and it will not schedule anymore anything on it, on any devices that are attached to this worker, to this dispatcher. As I said before, Lava Master is scheduling jobs. That's the one that is scheduling jobs. And when it's scheduled, it will send messages over the ZMQ connection to the right dispatcher, to the right Lava Slave process. It will be a start message. And the same, when you click on cancel in the web UI, the Lava Master will receive a message saying you should forward that information to the slave. So it will send a cancel to the right slave, Lava Slave process, that will actually cancel the job. The master is also responsible to render device dictionaries. So the device dictionary is a specific information for a device, like the telnet connection, the connection to the serial. Is it a telnet local or something, or specific information for a specific device? And this is stored as a Jinja2 templates. So we have to render it to make a full device configuration, which is a large YAML file, so that the master that does that. And it sends all the information to the slave. And it's sending notification. We don't really care about it. If you want to look at the code itself, this is in Lava Server Management command lavamaster.py. It's a large script that does a lot of different things. I haven't listed everything because it does other stuff. If you go to the dispatcher, so you will have a Lava Slave process. So as I said, it's a master and slave architecture. So the slave is connecting back to the master, and it will create a network. And it's mainly just waiting for commands, for start, cancel, status commands, and it will execute the commands that are sent by the master. So when it receives the start command, it will spawn a new process called lava-run, which is the only process that does, in fact, talk to the board. Lava Slave is just responsible for spawning new process. We will have one Lava run per job. So when you create a new job, Lava Master will schedule it. It will send a start message to the right slave that will spawn a new Lava run that will really execute and start the board. We'll talk about Lava run just after. So Lava Slave is spawning many Lava runs, and it will check the status of the process. Is it still running? Has it crashed? What's the return value? This kind of stuff. And it will inform back the master about the status. And you can look at the code in Lava Dispatcher, Lava Slave. Okay? Now let's go to Lava Run. So as I said, there is one Lava Run per job running, and Lava Run is it's the process actually talking to a device, controlling a device. So it will first receive a job definition. It's the job definition that you specify when you submit a job. It will receive it like as is. It will parse it, and it will create a pipeline of actions. So it will create a boot action, a deploy, a boot, and a test action, depending on what you specify in your job definition. It will also look at the device configuration that was rendered by the Lava Master. And it will set up resources, TFTP, libguestfs, etc. Interact with the DUT, use the power control commands and things like that. And that's a process that is connected to the serial output, to the serial console of your board. So that's a process that will send back the result. It will get the output from the board, and it will send back the result to another process on the master. And it's in Lava Dispatcher, Lava Run, if you want to see it. But mainly what you want to look at then is a Lava Dispatcher Python module. And I just said that Lava Run is sending back the logs on the server. And we need a process to grab the logs, and the process is called lava-logs. It's a daemon running on the master. It's only responsible for getting the logs. They are sent over the network, so it's just waiting, listening on a socket, and grab the logs, record the right thing in the database, and store it on file system. That's all. Really simple process. And it's in Lava Server Management Command Lava Logs. And yeah, it's storing the logs in this full directory if you want to have a look later on. It's not really interesting right now. That was the architecture. So if you look back now at the first picture, I think you understand some part of it. I think you will have to reread the slide afterward, but that's normal. If you want to do some stuff in Lava to develop, to add a new board, for example, the first thing you need is to have a local Lava instance working on your machine. Before, we had only one reliable way to do it. Now, thanks to Antonio, we have a second one, which is a bit easier. So the first one, which is the one I'm using personally, is that I'm installing Lava-server and Lava-dispatcher using the Debian packages. So it will install a running instance on my machine. And then I'm hacking it. I'm fetching the sources from Git. And then I'm just replacing in userlib Python 3 this package, Lava something. So where it was installed by the Debian package, I'm just removing the sources, the Python modules that are inside. And I'm making symlinks between my Git repository and the userlib Python 3 this package, Lava something. And I do that for all the modules. So command, dispatcher, REST app, result app, Scheduler app, server, and Linaro, Django, XML, RPC. And so if you make any modification in your local clone, it will be used by your instance. You will do the same for the binaries. So we have only 3: user bin, Lava server, Lava run, and Lava slave. And then you just restart all the services using service, Lava slave restart, service, Lava master restart, etc., etc. And that does work. That's a bit hacky because you need to be root to do the symlinks, but that's working quite well. With that, you will be able to run the CI test, or just CI run. And if you go to localhost, you will have your local instance using your own code. So if you change anything, you just have to restart the corresponding services. So for instance, if you change anything in Lava server source code, you just have to restart the Unicorn process or different sub-processes. And the good thing is that if you change something in Lava dispatcher, so the part of Lava that is talking with the board, you don't have to restart anything. You just need to submit a new job, and it will reload the module in memory. So it will use the new version. So as I said, we have a new method now, which is a bit less hacky. It's a clean way to do it. You just need to install all the dependencies manually. This is a full list technically that you have to install to be able to clone and first things. Then you clone the sources, and in the sources itself, we have a script that will give you the dependencies for Lava server and Lava dispatcher directly, and you can just install the result, what this script is returning. So apt-get install of what is written by these 4 call to scripts, and that will install everything that you need. You will need to create a database manually, because that's something that is done automatically by the Debian packages. The Debian package, so if you use that, but that's, the same is pretty simple. Just this is the exact thing that you have to type, and it will work directly, so that's not really difficult. And then you migrate the database to create all the tables, and you're done. You should be able to run the CI directly, and then you can use a project called Foreman, and it will start the server locally, and they will listen on localhost 8000, and you will have a local instance working, which is not a hacky. It's a clean way to do it compared to my own version. And if you want to restart the service, you just kill format, just Control-C format start and redo it, and it's working. That's an easy way of doing it. So all this talk was just to to help you to create a new device type, for example, if you integrate a new device type. So now I will speak about it. So if you want to integrate a new device type, you have your device on your table. It can be really easy to really hard. It will depend mainly on the way you boot and deploy on your board. If the method is already supported by Lava, like you're deploying on TFTP, NBD, or Fastboot, and the boot method is already supported, so barebox, DFU, PyOCD, uboot, or something, it should be pretty easy. In this case, if the methods that you will use for deploying and booting are already supported by Lava, it's then just a matter of creating the right configuration files. So you will have to create a new device type that will be in etc dispatcher config device types. It's a Jinja 2 template. In this directory, you will find a lot of examples. Look at the existing ones. You will see that all of them are extending a base template. So try to find a device that is close to the one that you will want to integrate, and it will be more or less just copy pasting and finding the right bit to change in the device type template. And then you can try to add a device dictionary to your device and just run it directly inside your Lava, trying to run a new job with it. This is only if the deploy and boot methods that you need are already supported. If that's not the case, which is you need to create a new deploy method or a new boot method, then that will be way more difficult, because it's not anymore just a matter of creating a device type template, so not a matter of just creating a configuration file. You will have to write some Python code, so you will have to go inside the lava_dispatcher Python module and to understand how it's working. So this is more for advanced users. It can be okay. It's not really impossible to do. It will take more time, because you will have to understand how Lava is working internally, really. So in this case, if you want to do that, please talk to us first, because it may be just a small extension of an existing module that you have to do. We are maybe already working on it. So talk to us first, so we can decide of what will be the next action to do. And if you go for creating a new action because we don't have time to work on it and you want to do it yourself, then it will be a matter of creating a new action in the Lava Dispatcher Actions module. If it's a deploy method, you go to Lava Dispatcher Action Deploy and you create a new module, a new Python module, or in boot, if it's a boot method. You will have to import that method in the strategies.py file. That's a detailed implementation, and you will also have to update the schema, because now when you submit a job, we validate that the job definition that you provide is valid. So we have a schema that describes every options and every method that does exist, etc. So if you create a new one, by default, it will be rejected at the submission stage. So you have to create to update the schema to allow for your new deploy or boot action. That sounds really stupid, but that's the first thing you will eat when you will try. It will just be rejected. So that's good to know that there is a schema that you have to change. And obviously, then you have to test it a lot, because that's a new deploy or boot method. You have to test it to be sure it's working well. When that's done, please contribute back. So we have a GitLab instance at git.lavasoftware.org. Just create an account, fork the Lava project, and push on your change on a branch and ask for a merge request. It will automatically trigger a set of CI jobs. I'm sure it will fail the first time. That's normal. Don't be afraid. We are here to help you also to fix the CI issues that you will have. The first one that you will have is that we are using Black for code formatting, and you have to your code has to be Black compliant. So just install Black and run it on your source code. It will reformat everything. and that will pass the test. And the second thing is that you will see that we are trying to build the Docker containers. The first time that you will submit, it will time out because you need some special permissions. Just ask for it, and we will give you the right permissions on our instance to do that. And whenever you want, if you want to contribute something, please add unit test whenever possible. And also, if you found a bug, it will be wonderful if first you reported it back. That would be nice. And if you can provide a test that shows a bug, that's really perfect. And if you're not part of Linaro, if you're a member company and your hardware, you're the only one to own that hardware, talk to us about working with us in LavaFed, because if we don't have access to the board that you use, we won't be able to validate that the next version of Lava will still work on that kind of board. So please talk to us about it. Do you have any questions? We have 3 minutes on my, maybe 2 or 3 minutes. That's a lot of information, I know. So you're also welcome to just talk to me afterward if you want. Okay, thanks then.